What's up, moneymakers? Today we're talking about some hot NIO stock news, and yes, I know there is a Q3 earnings announcement in a few weeks. We will be covering that topic, but we also have some hot updates before then. If you are new, welcome to the Moneymakers family. You can join us by smashing the subscribe button and ring the notification bell for at least 2 videos every single week. And while you're down there, why don't you turn that like button into a beautiful, beautiful blue. So what are we covering today? 1, China. 2, advancements in NIO technology. 3, some of the risks that you need to be aware of. And finally, number 4, what am I going to be doing about NIO stock? We've been getting a lot of comments on our NIO videos on why is NIO stock going up when the S&P 500 or the general market is going down. So we check out the S&P 500 index right here. We saw that it went up in October 12th, and since then it's been steadily dropping by around 8%. Now there's a couple of reasons that the general market is going down. One is the Senate has adjourned, meaning that there's no more stimulus talks before the election. 2 is that there is election volatility right now. And 3, there has been a massive resurgence in the coronavirus. Now, if we check out the NIO stock, on the other hand, we can see in the 1 month range, there has been a jump over here. This is the JP Morgan analyst upgrade. But even then, since then, the stock has still been consistently rising about 10% as of today on Friday. What is going on? Why is NIO not impacted? Well, the simple answer for that is because NIO is a Chinese company and most of its impact is going to be driven by the Chinese market. And if we look at China so far, we see the performance there is pretty positive. In fact, they have expanded 4.9% in GDP from July to September quarter, which is pretty outstanding, especially amidst the coronavirus and the downturn of pretty much the worldwide economy. But not only that, they're also able to recover very quickly from the coronavirus as the world continues to struggle with the virus. And the next reason is China is doing a lot in terms of pushing towards non-gasoline engines or non-combustible engines. We can see that China is moving to ban gasoline-powered cars by 2035, and this is a massive deal. Now, of course, this doesn't just mean it's going to benefit the EV industry. However, this is still a move in the right direction, moving people towards cleaner energy, and of course, EV will indirectly benefit from there. Now let's get into NIO updates. And of course, all of these updates are going to be exciting, but more specifically, the very last one, a major bank has upgraded their views on NIO again because they went to a NIO factory and they saw something that they really liked. And we're going to talk about what that something is in a bit. Firstly, NIO reached a major milestone where they were able to increase monthly outputs to 5,000 units for the first time. And this is really good news because we've recently seen a lot of pent-up demand, which we'll be getting up into a little bit later, and that there is causing a backlog of orders that they'll need to fulfill later on, and especially when talking about their potential expansion into Europe and how they need to be able to double their sales in order to start profiting within the next year or two. Secondly, NIO has announced plans to invest $1 billion in develop autonomous driving chips in-house. According to its CEO, developing the computing chips is still in the early stages, and this is really big because they're following in the footsteps of Tesla, who has only recently developed their in-house chips last year. Vertical integration is especially important in EV technology as technology advances very, very quickly, because if you are vertically integrated, each component that you make fits perfectly within your car. Meaning if you do need to switch up a component because you changed the design or you found some new evolution in technology, then you can actually update those components and completely remanufacture it in a couple of months, if not weeks. Versus if you have a third-party dependency, obviously you're going to take a lot longer. And this does show that they are willing and desiring to compete against Tesla, not only domestically in the Chinese market, but also internationally with their plans to expand into Europe. Speaking of self-driving, NIO has recently started rolling out their NOP or Navigate on Pilot, which you can imagine is pretty much just autopilot from point A to point B. And if you weren't aware, Tesla actually rolled this out in 2018 and is the first and only car manufacturer right now in the world that has successfully rolled out NOP, meaning that NIO will become the second globally and the first among Chinese EV makers to be able to successfully roll this out. They were rolling this out sometime in October over-the-air updates. However, I haven't seen much feedback on this autopilot feature so far on NIO, so we'll definitely have to keep a close eye on this, and we'll make videos in the future on it. However, I unfortunately do expect some hiccups when it comes to this autopilot feature, mostly because the traffic the road as well as the cultural behavior of driving within China is very different. And it's not really for the better or for the worse, but you do have to understand that there has to be some sort of trade-off and balancing across technology, safety, as well as efficiency when it comes to autopilot in China. Now, there are a couple of more very exciting news for NIO, but I do want to emphasize that it's not all peachy keen and there are some risk involved, which we'll get into in the next section, as well as what I'm going to be doing, and what I'm going to be doing might surprise you. Next, let's talk about their battery as a service, and they're significantly expanding their infrastructure as well as their accessibility to the public. For example, management guided for an accelerated deployment plan of its second generation battery swap station, where they're aiming for a total of 500 plus swap stations by the end of 2021. Plus, NIO has also recently announced its power up plan, where they're committing to another 30,000 plus destination charging piles in cooperation with other partners, and they are providing a subsidies for these piles. And this is really exciting because we're definitely seeing a push towards EV, not only from the government, but also from NIO, which is a private entity, because infrastructure subsidy is normally a government responsibility. And it's exciting to see that NIO is determined to help push China's movement towards the EV sector. Now, the last exciting news that you have been waiting for is that another major bank, Morgan Stanley, has stays overweight on NIO and raises the price target to $33. Now, to be honest, I personally don't place much value on analyst price targets or upgrades or anything along those lines. However, I do think it is a nice indicator to have, as well as to get more data points from them that us retail investors don't really have access to. For example, they recently took an EV trip and they suggest the pace of NIO's progress in achieving its strategic and investment ambition is tracking ahead of our expectations on all fronts. Now, this is not something that a retail investor can just randomly fly to China, check out all the EV factories, and make assumptions on how that's going. For example, when these Morgan Stanley people spoke with regional sales heads and stores, they were talking about the EC6 vehicle, and they were saying that consumers who place orders now won't get the car until early 2021, which implies a longer waiting time than other EV models, which means is that there is a backlog of order and pent-up demand for these cars right now. Plus, Morgan Stanley is saying they believe the capital market is more willing to finance NIO's innovations and investments in the future, which is a really important thing to keep in mind when we talk about the risk right now. Now, within this section, it's not to scare you about NIO, but I do want to just get more level set because there is a lot of hype going on with NIO, and I just want to make sure that people are still aware that this is still a risky investment despite how glowing its progress has been. Firstly, NIO is still not in an internally self-funding position, meaning that they still need to raise capital in order to function on a regular basis. And they're still not going to be profitable for at least a couple of years. Optimistically, it's going to be 12 to 24 months, but who actually knows what's going to happen? But at least from Morgan Stanley's perspective and their research into NIO, people or capital markets are willing to still help NIO and finance NIO further when they need more capital. Plus, they're also getting help from the Chinese government or a Chinese state government. The second risk is more along the NIO stock price, and more specifically around its Q3 earnings announcement in the next couple of weeks. What we've seen is that there has been a very sharp price rise or price appreciation within the past couple of weeks. My concern is if the Q3 earnings is not absolutely phenomenal without any scratches and everything beats targets substantially, unless that actually happens, I think that there is going to be a pullback, at least in the short term, from NIO's current price of $30.58. The main reason I think this is because we've seen a lot of new investors or new buyers going in and purchasing more and more NIO shares, not truly understanding what the fundamentals or the reason behind NIO other than it is a hype stock. And if the Q3 earnings announcement isn't absolutely phenomenal and people start selling their shares, I'm a little worried that these newer or earlier NIO investors who aren't really investing for the long term, they're going to start selling their shares and the price is going to start going down and continue on with this spiral. But of course, if you are in the moneymakers community, then you know that we are all about long-term investing and investing in fundamentals and not necessarily on hype. So any short-term volatility, just got to brush it off. So what am I personally going to be doing? I'm personally going to be holding off on investing in NIO until the next couple of weeks because there is a lot of volatility and unknowns in the market right now from the US election as well as the Q3 earnings report where the price might go up or might go down. Plus, I am starting to save more and more on my cash position because I have a secret announcement later on in the future. But again, I am not a financial advisor. Read the full disclosure down below. Make sure you do your own due diligence and more analysis on top of this video. If you want to check out even more news on NIO stock, check out this video over here or check out my November stock picks up here.